Ian, we're here sat in the Bicester Oxfordshire County Council Library. What a fantastic space. Just been talking to the ladies about how popular it's becoming. Yeah. I was looking at the Thriving Communities for Everyone corporate plan, and you're setting out how you're listening to the local residents. And obviously as a county council you've got increasing challenges, but do you feel that the enormity of what you have to do is appreciated by the local residents, or that they are listening to what challenges that you've got, and in turn you're listening to what they want?
I think first of all that sitting here in the Bicester Library, the great thing about this is it showed early partnership working with Cherwell District Council, because their offices are downstairs. We're on the library floor here, which is open access. It's a brighter, lighter library, and we've actually rebuilt some extra care housing in the old library. So it's about creating different aspects for Bicester and really regenerating it and working together with Cherwell. So that shows something that we are working on partnership agreements. But the thriving communities, that's really important to us, to make sure that people feel part of the thriving community, and it's not just being done to them, so they have better housing opportunities, better job prospects. And of course, one of the key things about this whole sort of journey adventure, as it were, is to give everybody the best opportunity they can. Now, that's all very well to say, but how does that set against the backdrop of the funding reductions we've had over the recent years? And I think people understand that we have had those funding difficulties and challenges. It hasn't been easy. There's no point in sitting here and saying it's been an easy journey. However, it's meant people can understand the challenges we have around social care, children's social care as well, which we will be doubling the amount spent in the last 10 years. And people understand that. So whilst we've been having to make some difficult decisions and say to people, I'm sorry, can you pay a little bit more on your council tax? People seem to understand that they've been listening to us. We've been listening to them as well, because this year we've just created a new infrastructure fund, which is all about putting money back into highways. We've heard the problems people have been experiencing with the roads, and we're putting actually more money in than ever before, and that's just for Oxfordshire in repairs.
That's all fantastic to hear that you are listening, and that the local residents are understanding the challenges that you face. But obviously we're fortunate to live in a relatively buoyant part of the country, and with the recent Growth Board announcements, could you explain a little bit more about what that means for the region and the residents of Oxfordshire?
What it means with the recent announcements is the fact that we're getting funding in for the infrastructure, for bits of road and schools that people have been saying to us, why have we had the housing, why haven't we provided the roads and the infrastructure with it? The Growth Board announcements through the Growth Deal means that we are providing the infrastructure, and so people can see that and then understand where the housing will come along with the roads and infrastructure, and the connectivity, because it's not just about the physical connectivity from sort of work to home, it's about digital connectivity as well. More of us are working at home, having remote office locations, so it's important that we have the digital connectivity so people can make that choice between working at home or going in slightly later, which actually then means there's less congestion because there's fewer cars on the road. So it is a win-win, but all the time we're very aware that Oxfordshire is a great place because of the natural beauty of the surrounding countryside. So we've got to make sure there's a balance between having the expansion, having growth, but still providing that great community spirit and the key locations which everybody loves in Oxfordshire.
And you referenced partnerships here at the library earlier in the conversation, and collaboration obviously is a spirit of collaboration with all of us. And do you see that as a growing and vital part of the way we all work and that you work in the future?
It's one of the key reasons Oxfordshire got the Growth Deal. We worked with all the other 5 district councils, including Cherwell, and because we're working together, because government could see that we're actually sitting down and saying, let's plan where the housing's going to be, make sure that we have the right infrastructure, whether that be roads, schools, doctor surgeries, work together, and the government looked and said, okay, we'll give you £215 million over the next 5 years so you can provide that infrastructure. So it just shows what working together, partnership working, can deliver better outcomes for everybody.
Oxfordshire is one of 3 areas as a focus of the local industrial strategy alongside Birmingham and Manchester. Could you elaborate a bit more on the local industrial strategy, or as I prefer to call it, the LIS?
Well, it's part of the national industrial strategy that's government are producing to make sure that we know where the business is going, where we're going to develop. And what we're having in Oxfordshire is the local industrial strategy, picking out the key locations, key sectors that we actually want to see grow, and how can we grow them, what infrastructure do you need, what training do we need for the skills sector and the support sector around it. And it's producing a document, working with the local enterprise partnership, working with government and business to identify exactly what's required in Oxfordshire. And then that means we can go to government and say, this is what we require, and if they want Oxfordshire to grow, which of course we're one of only 3 net contributors to the exchequer across the country, then it means they'll be able to provide the funding so that we can actually deliver that extra infrastructure.
One of our recent initiatives is Oxfordshire Voice, where we've joined forces with the public sector through a unique collaboration involving some of Oxfordshire's leading employers, Blenheim Palace, Unipart, Oxford Bus Company, Owen Mumford, etc. But obviously you're one of the larger, or if not the largest employer in Oxfordshire. And obviously you face the same stresses and strains as all businesses in Oxfordshire. So through Oxfordshire Voice, hopefully it makes sense for us both all to work together to solve some of these problems. So maybe you could elaborate a bit more on your role as a business, and not necessarily just an entity that people look at and say, well, you need to solve all the problems, because that's what you're here for.
Exactly, it's interesting you say that people seem to forget we are a business because we have such a wide variety of different businesses within our overall business. Obviously, the big one everybody looks at is highways and transportation. We've got adult social care, children's social care, trading standards, planning, and there's a multitude of operations we do across the county, and we suffer the same problems that other businesses have about connectivity. How do people move around? The fact that people can't get around perhaps as easily as they want to. So we understand those stresses and strains and what it means for the workforce, the fact that we do need good quality houses in the right locations for people to be able to have a good work-life balance, because it's not just about working, it is about having a good quality of life, and that makes better employees overall.
And no amount of effective partnerships and collaborations are going to deny the fact that there's a lot of hard work to do going forward. But do you ultimately see Oxfordshire remaining and becoming an even more attractive place to live and work in the future with the plans that you've got in place, and no doubt more plans that you've got for the future?
Absolutely, because one of the key things is people need good quality homes, so we've got to build good quality homes, but also job prospects as well. That's really important, that people have got good quality jobs, and we've got education for the younger children coming up, but then once they've been educated, they can stay and remain in Oxfordshire, and the growth in the economy is absolutely key, because of course if we grow the economy, then that means people and businesses are paying more tax, which then helps the vulnerable residents that we at the County Council need to look after. So while some people turn around and say, why do you want to go for growth? Well, actually, if we've got to look after vulnerable people, whether it be adults, children, we need to have the taxes from somewhere. So we need that growing economy to make sure we can provide for them.
Well, thank you very much for your time today. It's great that you're talking to us, and hopefully we'll have more conversations going forward in the future, and good luck with the plans for the future.